So in this video we'll be learning the basics of bead matting. So the first step is to get your fishing line. I always advise that you get, as beginners, you get a fishing line you are very comfortable with working with. It should not be too long and it should also not be too short. The problem with it, if it's too long, is that it becomes too cumbersome to work with. Then the problem with it, if it's too short, is that means you have to be tying off after every single point, so your work may be a little bit non-knit with too much of knots. So let's get into the video. So you get a fish line that you're comfortable with, and we start our mark by putting 3 beads. We put 3 beads into our fish line, then we cross with 1 bead to give us a ring of 4. So you put 3 beads in your fishing line and then you cross with 1 bead. In bead making we have different rings. Most ring you work with for different bags is either a ring of 4. By a ring we mean a circle like this. You see that this is a circle of just 4 beads. Then for some other bag design, for example this, we have a ring of 6. So each circle is 1 2 3 4 5 6. So each circle like this is what we call a ring. Then for some bag we can have a ring of 5, for some a ring of 8. So anytime you hear the word ring, that's what should come into your mind. The first cycle of bead where you cross, that's what a ring is. So for this we have a ring of 4. Then to continue in our mat making, you add 1 bead into your left fishing line, then another bead into your right fishing line, and then you cross with 1 other bead to give you your second ring of 4. So this is your second ring of 4. Then you continue again by putting 1 bead in your left fishing line, another bead in your right fishing line, and then you cross with 1 to give you another ring of 4. So I'll teach us how to make mats of ring of 6 and ring of 5 when we are making beaded bag designs of that ring. So for now, let's just focus on these 4 ring mats. So now we have our third ring of 4. So we continue depending on how long we want the mat to be. We can continue increasing this by adding 1 bead on our left fishing line, 1 bead on our right fishing line, and then we cross with 1. So let's say I want these mats to be like 7 rings long. So I'll continue by adding 1 bead on my left fishing line, 1 bead on my right fishing line, and then I cross with 1 until I have 7 rings. So let's do that. We have 3 rings now. Let's continue until we have 7 rings. We add 1 bead on your left fishing line, you add another one on your right fishing line, and then you cross with 1. Please, anything you do while making beaded bags, make sure you always drag your fishing line very tight. Make sure you always drag your fishing line very tight, because you don't want your work to be too soft or to be wobbly. So you drag your fishing line very tight. Now this is 1 2 3 4. This is 4 rings. Continue again. Remember we are going to 7 rings. So you continue again by adding 1 bead on your left fishing line, another one on your right fishing line, and then you cross with 1. So I think this is the 5th ring. Yes, this is 1 2 3 4 5. So let's make 7. So I have my 7 rings. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now I have my 7 rings. The next thing to learn now is how to turn our beads. Now to turn our mat, what we have to do is to pick 2 beads. You know, before we were putting 1 bead in left fish line, 1 bead in right fish line. This time around you put 2 beads in left or right, anyone you prefer, and then you cross with 1. So instead of putting 1 in left, putting 1 in right, you put 2 beads inside 1 fish line and then you cross with 1. That's how you turn. So you put 2 beads. Now I'm putting 2 beads in my left fish line. You can use the left or right, anyone you prefer. Left fish line, and then I'm going to cross with this one. And then I'm crossing with this one. So I've successfully turned now, because now my work is by the side. Remember, initially we were going upward, we were going this way upward, but now my work is by the right. So this is the first turning. The other turning now is how to continue and make our work go by the side. But this time around we only have one option. We are going to put our 2 beads into the fish line away from the work. That's the upper fish line, this fish line away from the work. So we are putting our 2 beads into this fish line and then we are crossing. Let me go over that again. You know, our first turn, I told us we can put our fish line in either of the, we can put our beads in either of the fish line, either the left or the right. But this time around we don't have that type of option. So we only have to put our fish line into this, we only have to put our beads into this fish line away from the work. So we put our 2 beads into the fish line away from the work and then we cross with 1. And then we cross with 1. So with this now we've made a successful turning, and then we can start working on the second row of our mats. Let me explain this at this point. If the project you are working on is a project that needs, you know, initially we did 7 rings, 1, 2, we did 7 rings initially, but now if you count this you'll see that it's 8 rings instead of 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now we have 8 rings instead of 7 because we turned with 1 ring. So if the project you want to work on is something that needs 7 rings, that means you have to make just 6 rings first, then when you are turning will be the 7th ring. If it's a project that needs 10 rings, that means you have to make 9 rings first, then where you are turning will be the 10th ring. So just keep that in mind, because if you make 10 rings and then you turn, you are going to have 11 rings and not 10 rings for that, and that might affect your work. So just know the number of rings you want for your project. If it's 5, you make 4 rings and then you turn with 1, it will be 5. If it's 20, you make 19 rings and then you turn with 1 to give you 20. I hope you understand that part. Now let's continue the work. So to continue building our mat, permit me to flip this. To continue building our mat, what we have to do is to put the fishing line close to the work, which is my right fishing line now, into the next bead by the side. I don't know if you can see. This is what our work looks like now. So you put the fishing line close to the work, my right fishing line now, into the next bead, this bead here. Then on your left fishing line, you add 1 bead and then you cross with 1. Then on your left fishing line, you add 1 bead and then you cross with 1. So this is it. Continue building the row by putting your fish line close to the work, the right fish line, into the next bead. Then on the left one, you add just 1 bead and then you cross with one. Just like so. So we continue building this by putting our right fish line into the next one bead. Then on the next left fish line we put one bead, and then we cross with one. So we do this until we get to the last bead, to the last string, which is this one. So we continue doing this until we get to this one, because at this last ring we need to turn again. So let's just continue. Please, if you have any question, ask your question, drop your question in the comment section. I will definitely answer them. And do it to like this video also. So this is what we have now. Now I'm at the last string. Here. So we continue by putting our right fish line into that bead over there, and then to turn we put one bead into this same right fish line, and then we cross with one. This time around, because we are turning this way so we can continue our work by this side, we are putting one bead into this right fish line, and then we cross with one. So let's do that. Put one bead into our right fish line, and then we cross with one. So now we have successfully turned to the side. So now we've successfully turned to move by the side. Then remember we have to turn again so we can start working on the next row by this side. So to do that, still on this fish line away from our work, we add two beads, and then we cross with one. And then we cross with one. So have this. So have this. So now we can continue building our next row by the side. So for me to become, because I cannot be comfortable putting my fishing line into this, I always like to turn this way because I'm right-handed and it's easier for me to work from my right side. So I'll turn this way. Then we continue the same way we did with the second row. That's what we continue doing now. We put our right fish line into the next bead. We put our right fish line into the next bead. Then on the left fish line, we put one bead, and then we cross with one. So this is how we continue building the next row, just like we did on the second row. So do yours, and then we'll meet at this last bead. I'm going to do mine off camera now, and then we meet at this last string here. So now I'm on my last string. Let's turn again. We put our right fish line into the next bead, and then on the same right fish line we put one bead, and then we cross with 1. It's just exact same thing we did with the other time. I just want to do it again so you can get it. If you didn't get it the first time, you definitely get it this time around. So now we've crossed number 1. Then to cross number 2, we put 2 beads on this right fishing line, and then we cross with 1. So now we have done number 2, and then we can continue building the next row like this. So this is basically how you make a beaded mat. All you just have to do now is to increase the row to as many as you want. So for the sake of this tutorial, there's a term I'll be using. Now what we have here now, let me remove this part. So now we have a mat of just 3 rows. So what we have here now is a 3 by 8 mat. So this is 1 2 3 rings by 8. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8. So 3 by 8. So if I ask you to make a mat of 20 by 17, you know you are making 20 rings on one side and 17 rings on the other side. If I ask you to make a mat of 2 by 2, you know you are making a mat with 2 rings on one side and 2 rings on the other side. If I ask you to make a mat of 15 by 2, you know you are making a mat of 15 rings on one side and then 2 rings on the other side. So I want you to take note of that, because that's a term we'll be using a lot in this training. I can ask you to make a mat of 42 by 5, a mat of 50 by 20. So just put that at the back of your mind. So in the next tutorial, I'll be teaching us how to end our fishing line. You know, this one is already getting short now, so I'll be teaching us how to end our fishing line and then continue our work with